of that mix of
back to work and all that type of stuff. But when you get older,
do you want to go on
wiser, you look back.
Do you want me to go on this side, or where do you want?
Probably just, you can get low in there.
Yeah.
Just a little bit closer than you were last time.
Yeah,
I
right.
don't know what sort of debt he had. You know, whether he was buying his own house, because at the time, people didn't really buy houses then.
No.
There was odd ones who did. And, you know, the pressures of just having a mortgage and things like that was, you know, because you've got to remember, we were living in colliery houses and paying about 50 pence a week rent, you know. I think the most was 150, you know. And that's how simple it was as a miner, you know. You got your fuel through the back gate, and you know, your coal fires on and stuff like that, and your colliery house, your money came off your pay note. And you know, a young lad, when I started the pit in 1977, by the time 1980 came round, I was on 100 quid a week.
Yeah, there's some good money to
spend, I mean, when I finished in 93, you're looking maybe at about 300 quid a draw, you know. I want less money now.
No, I know. That's literally the
that's
case.
the difference, you know. But that was there, as I say, the miners' strike was. It was a time, it was an era, it was what the coal industry was going to go through. It was, I suppose, in one sense, it was always going to happen because you had governments that they didn't want coal in the country anymore, and I didn't take it personal. I did at the time. When I look back now, people say, would you have it back? I would have it back tomorrow.
What, the pit?
Aye, with the men that I work with. And
would you? I mean, a lot of people say that. And
if
do you think that filth and danger?
To be honest with you, when you walked out of school and you went into the pit, you didn't recognise it. You didn't acknowledge the danger, and until it was pointed out to you by old fellas and things like that. But it was there. But what you really miss about the pits is the muck and the grime and all the rest of it, and the horrible conditions and that. You just lived with it. It was part and parcel of life, let's say. But what I've missed the most is that friendship, that honesty between men and things like that. Because I've been involved now and I've met some people and I've spoken to people, and there's never the honesty there that there was at the pit. The pit was an era where men would tell you what they thought of you to your face. They would see you in the car park and ask you if you want to fight it out. You know what I mean? And that's where it was settled. Oh, we'll go in the car park and sort it out. That's all, you know. And then common sense, by the time you got to bank and you got a shower and you come through, they bump into each other in the canteen. They just looked, bought a cup of tea, sat down and talked about what they were going to do the night time in the club, and whether they had a bet on the horses and things like that. And that was it. It was a moment in time that was forgotten about by the time you rode up the shaft, you know.
Do you think it was a social setting mainly kind of formed through masculinity? Do you think the women, because the women supported the strike in many ways, didn't they? I was up here on Saturday for Gene's stuff about the women against pit closures at Vane Tempest in the 90s. I mean, my mother, she resented the fact that she felt that she didn't really have any power, that she was dependent on my dad. And my dad was one of them that she never saw a wage packet. She never knew what he earned, and all that very kind of old-fashioned gender split. When you say we'd have it all back tomorrow, would we want all that back?
I don't know if I'd want it all back. I would like I didn't mind the work.
Right.
It was dangerous, it was dirty, it was scruffy, need toilets, need drinking water and stuff like that. But as I say, it was the friendship, I think. Yeah. You know, that I haven't seen anywhere else. I haven't seen, growing up, this was called the basin.
Right.
This is, you used to call this the little dock. And that one in the background over there is the south dock. And the siren's gone. I think it's because the gates is I think the gates is going to open on the little dock. The marina gates.
It's a fair old dock, isn't it?
It is, surprising how big it is.
Yeah.
Well, the south dock, which is this one in the background, had all the concrete states round it. and the stairs were chutes.
Right.
What used to load the coal ships. So the coal used
Did
to...
the coal come directly down from the pit then into these chutes?
It used to, aye. Used to come from Dordon Quarry, which was down south of the dock, and there used to be a rail line used to run along. You see the remnants of that concrete block in the distance? That's more or less where the trucks would come down, and the stairs were the same height as that all the way around the dock.
No, I can suddenly see it as soon as I saw that.
So the trucks would come round the top, and all the coal trucks had doors underneath. So when they came over the top of the chute, they just used to knock the handles, and the coal would drop out the truck straight down the chute and into the boats. And that was more or less the way it used to work. And then I think it was early 2000, maybe late 90s, when they blew them all down.
So they were there as late as that?
Yeah, they were never used. I mean, I saw a lad climb down them and slide out into the dock. That was fun. He was trying to pinch the pigeons. He used to race pigeons, and he used to go down and pinch the squabs out that were nesting in the stairs.
Right.
And there was a couple of them that were like, the metal stair that used to come down like this into the boat was missing off the front. So they were just open chutes, and you could see the pigeons nesting on the ledges inside the chutes. So this lad got onto the top of the stairs and decided to climb down. Lost his foot, and the next time we saw him, he come flying out the front of this.
Did you actually see that then?
Come flying out the front of this straight into the big dock. You know, that was a childhood memory, and you couldn't forget.
So it used to be your playground then?
Yeah, we used to fish all these before the gates went up for safety and insurance reasons, and part of the development with the marina. We used to be able to fish on here and catch lobsters in what we used to call boolers, which was an old bicycle rim with a net hanging underneath, wires into a pyramid over the top with a piece of fish tied in on a rope, and we just used to cast them off the pier end. We used to sit on the seabed. Lobster would come along to eat the thingery, and you would just pull it up fast and catch him before he could swim out the net, you know. That was some of the stuff we used to do, and used to fish all these. It used to be good for catching eels and things like this. Well, the reason I stopped here is this is where, when we done the ghost session where the lad drowned, and it was just, was it off this block? He was standing on the top of these blocks. There was a boat, like one of these cobbles, what you see on the entrance there, with a dodger over the front. It was suspended on here. It was getting refitted, and along the joints of the seams of the boat, they have like a thin beading, and they'd stripped all these lengths of beading off, and they were about 8 foot long. And we'd been fishing on the North Pier, and we decided we'd had enough, and we wanted to come and muck about in the dock. So we were mucking about in the little skiffs on the side of what tied at the side of the harbour wall, and we were just mucking about. Came up here, and we saw these lengths of wood, and the tide was full up, so it comes up a good way. And and we were just picking them up, and as we were chucking them up, they were coming down like spears, and they were dropping into water, going prattly into water, and then bobbing back up full length, flopping out. And this one, he had his little fishing bag on, his little side satchel thing, and he chucked this one, and I saw him spin round, and as he spun round, he just like fell backwards, and he fell backwards into the water. And this life buoy wasn't here, the rails weren't here, they were just open sided things. All this is new, and he just hit the water, and he seemed to be some distance away from the pier wall, from this quayside wall. There was about 5 of us. Some went down this ramp, because this ramp wasn't here then either. It used to be back up there where the brickwork is. And the lads, there was about 3 lads, ran down and shouted at them to tell them to swim towards them, because I couldn't swim. The other lad who was with us couldn't swim. I think there was only one, maybe 2 of them who had the 50 yards on the back sort of thing. And we were shouting at him to swim to the side, and he was just kicking and kicking and kicking. I ran down there. He'd gone down once already, and he kicked back the top. I set away running. There was a life buoy down the end. Pulled it off, ran up, and he'd been down and came back up and I took the light buoy in, and he just flapping and flapping. He didn't see it. We tried to pull it towards him and things like that, and we couldn't get it any closer to him. And the third time's a gem, and he just went down, and he didn't come back up. And the water was a lovely clear day, and you could see him, and just as he drifted out of sight in the water, you know, you just like, you're standing there and just total shock of, where's he gone? Is he not coming back up? You know, and it's seeing it happen is something else, to be honest. We were just standing, and there was a little skiff, little boat thing came round here with a guy paddling it on the back, and he was gone as hard as he could. And just as he was getting to roughly where he went down, this guy came out of nowhere. I don't know where he came from, and he was stripped down to his undies, and he just launched himself off the side of the thing, and he went down and he came back up, and he went down and he came back up. Third time he went down, and he brought him back up, and brought him up the side of the boat, and the lads in the little boat pulled him ashore, like pulled him into the boat, and he was blue like I've never seen, you know. And we just stood there and just helpless to think, you know. You didn't believe that he was going to die. You didn't. You either didn't want to, or were you not seeing it. You were thinking, this only happens in the movies, man. Be all right now. As soon as you get him off his boat, it'll be all right. And all of a sudden, the police came down and took our names and stuff like that, and we're saying, oh, is he going to be all right? Oh, why, they're still working on him and things like that. Oh, why, shall we go up and tell his ma? No, we'll sort all that out. You just get yourself sorted and get yourself homes type of thing, and you didn't mind out else. We'll sort your friend out, and he'll be all right type of thing. And it's only the next year when because the phone calls when they're available then, you know, you had to go in the corner of the street to make a phone call and things. And it was only when you went to school the next year that you heard, oh, your friend died, you know.
I think when you talked about that at the Ghost Lab, I think we were all very struck by that. Very struck by the fact that you talked about it, and very struck by the impact that it clearly had on you. And I guess for me, this is just a kind of personal thing. I hope it's not too personal or feels a bit weird or anything, but it's true. I'd felt a sense around you as soon as you walked in, pretty much, that there was something about you that I'd probably even then have said, I don't know, this guy's seen stuff. And I think that connected to me with that compassion that we've talked about, particularly for you in your case, that you bring to your work, that's rooted in a sense of some kind of intimate experience of how fragile life is. Does that making sense to you?
It does, aye, because I think it's like I say. I think situations in life mould you to a certain extent, more so when you're younger. I think when you're older, you have a little bit of wisdom about you, and you can actually just turn around and say, well, I'm just glad I'm not in that situation, and it's ended. But as a young person, you seem to think more and more about things and how things came about, and you would sit and I would sit and look at my own mother and think, what would have happened if that had been me? And I wouldn't care. About 2 years later it did. And that's why I think now that I believe in destiny. You're born on a day, you die on a day.
You said that, didn't you?
And what happens between that is the make-up of you, you know. And I just wonder why somebody was there that saved my life. Yet we tried, yet there was twice as many there, and we tried to save his, but we couldn't.
And we can't answer that one, can
No,
we? None of us can answer that
and
one.
I think that's where this little bit of compassion and want to have an understanding of people's situations and things you know, a bairn comes and tells you that they're getting bullied at school, you have a tendency to automatically believe it. But if an adult came and said you were getting bullied at work, you would say, yeah, you soft sod, get on with it, you know, and that's the difference. Even though the child mightn't have been bullied, you still have that little bit of compassion for that child to think, oh, well, I hope that's not the case. And then you would actually gone out your way to try and find out, oh, you know, so-and-so, is that right, she gets bullied at school? No, I know, she doesn't, she just likes to mat on and things like that. You would think that most bairns wouldn't use that, but some will, just to get that little bit of attention or to try and fit in with things, you know. Where later on in life you see, just get on with it. It's part and parcel of life. Be a stronger character. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger, and all them types of things. But them types of things can kill you.
Yeah, they can. They can.
You know, if you haven't got that little bit of strength of character about you, you know. There's certain situations that do make you strong. There's no doubt in my mind.
So I guess that that was very obvious straight away, and I guess what we've been trying to do in these ghost labs is somehow set up a space where somebody can feel all right about talking about stuff that they needed to or wish to talk about in a way that feeds into something that's compassionate as a whole. It might sound wacky to have a research project, because that's all like idea stuff and head stuff and books and stuff, that's really concerned to try and set up a compassionate space. And you contributed a lot to that, and I'm really, really grateful for it. And I could also see, I don't know whether you can recall this, I thought, he's going to go in a minute, this guy. And I thought, I'm not going to let you go, you're not going to go out of here, because there's something that's got to be said, you've got to make a contribution, which you did, and I came and talked to you.
I think we're things that you're trying to do, I think there's got to be a certain level of honesty about it. You know,
is that what you were watching for when you were debating whether to stay or go? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And did you find it honest then?
I found some of it honest, and I think I maybe instigated a little bit more honesty from some people.
Yes, you did.
And that, I like that. I like that honest approach to things.
If I may pursue it, and we'll not mention this in anything that we do, but I could see some patterns as well, and I wondered if you'd be prepared to kind of reflect on where you think the dishonesty was. It's not for sharing, so we
I wouldn't turn off just so we haven't got
yeah, turn off.
I'll turn off. It's
turn off. Think about the ways in which the past of that industry, now almost 30 years gone, 25 years gone, all the last pits and stuff, and its culture, as we've just spent a long time talking about this afternoon, still impacts on the way that people see themselves, on the way that they imagine their lives, I guess on how they relate to each other. So I tried to think about this, using this idea that I've kind of borrowed from somebody else. It's not my idea, but this person's close to us now. To think about in the same way that you might say an individual's haunted by something, the whole community can be haunted. So that's this idea of a social haunting.
I think, to be fair, I think if you're looking at it from a community point of view, to me, I think it's this idea of belonging.
Right, that haunts, is it that?
I think it is. I think if you look at the people who were born in the town, remember the collieries, remember how the streets used to be, and that's the self-belonging. Yeah. They've got a history in the town. They belong to the town, they're proud about it regardless of the muck and the squalor and the deprivation of it and stuff. Then you look at I'm looking at the new ones coming in, and them are looking for their little bit of history and their little bit of belonging.
Quite a lot of folk moving into Dordon.
I think so.
Because somebody said the other day. Sorry, to see them.
To see them, as far as East Shore Village and that, but that's why I think Tommy's become such a big focal point in the town.
Tommy's the sculpture.
The sculpture on the Tommy
First
soldier.
World War Tommy.
And when he came to town, I think what did is it gave the people who were just moving in or had been in the town for a couple of years a sense of history in the town. This is going to be our history. We know part of the town. We supported that. We contributed to that.
Right.
We've contributed to something to see them, where some of the ordinary people in the streets who have lived here all the time, it doesn't mean it means a lot, and didn't get it wrong, they've got a pride in it, but it's not there.
It's not their memorial in a way, is it?
No. I mean,
I can see that. We were talking about that earlier on.
I always thought that maybe it was in the wrong place, because the memorial was there, and it was always there. And
the
it
Pitt
was,
memorial.
No, the cenotaph.
Oh right,
and that was the focal point of the green, and and that was the history of the town. Now that it's gone there, people's embraced that situation and stuff like that. I've just come to accept the fact that that's what it is, and I also now have accepted the fact of why the new people coming into the town have took it to their hearts, because it's their piece of history, it's their piece of seeing, and it'll always be. Because I'll guarantee, if you went along and you met some of the people who'd moved into the town, if you said, "Tell us something about Seaham," Tommy. And that's the difference. Where if you said to me, "Tell us something about Seaham," I'll tell you about the terraced houses and the lovely families that lived there and worked in the pits. And there's nothing wrong in it. It's just that's the change in face of Seaham.
What about that then? What about that's still in Dordon? The people
The history's always there. The history's there to learn from. It's as simple as that. The history's there to learn from.
And do
the
the
future's
kids
to live
find about
to.
that on the school curriculums and stuff? Do
I
they
don't
know their own past?
I don't
Because these lads that I was
there is
working with, they were kind of acting out the past, but they didn't know anything about it because everybody had stopped talking after the pits had gone, particularly because there'd been conflict, often across families with people working and not working. In that area, they'd stopped talking, and the kids, it was as if they knew how to dance a dance, but they didn't know where it came from, or why it was important even.
So when I take the kids down to the blast beach, which is all colliery waste beach, sulphur rocks and fossils and things like this. Now, when we were growing up, we knew what fool's gold was, pyrites stone, and stuff like this. And fossil was a carbon, it was coal and things like that. And it was actually a plant or whatever. And but when I take them down, come across a piece of coal on the beach. Coal. Oh, is that coal? What's coal like? You know, and it just goes to show how far away from the Dordon and the Seaham that I knew and grew up with, to the Seaham and Dordon that them are growing up with. There's odd little references, maybe to granddad. Oh, my granddad used to work in a pit. And as my time's gone on, I'm starting to realise now, I'm actually 57-year-old. These kids weren't around when the pits were around, and they didn't have parents that worked in the collieries the way we did. So it's accepting the change in face. I mean, I'm not saying everything's good what's happening to Seaham. You know, there's concerns there of the housing and some of the places that could do with investment and stuff. But them are for the politicians and other people. So I guess I'm quite happy to get on board and have a fight with them about it.
The idea was that if we can allow the ghosts to speak, rather than either not pretending that they're not there, or if you come as an outsider not even knowing that they're there, but if we can allow them to speak, then we can kind of think again about what kind of future we want for the places that we find ourselves in. So the past can inform the future in terms of the values that you've talked about, that were in the community in Dordon, that were in pit work, that ran across that gender thing and so on. So that's what we've been trying to do, basically. One other thing I want to say is because we've talked about kindness and compassion, we've tried to create a place, these ghost labs, where people who are maybe a little bit nervous about coming in, a little bit, what's this, I don't know, who are these, where we've tried to bring, to create a compassionate space, actually, that can hear stories that are sometimes painful, and that can hold and kind of absorb that. I mean, do you think we managed to do that when we were at
Well, the
sea?
thing that made it simple for me to come to the Ghost Lab was Jack Howard. Because when she contacted us, she said, it's not about writing everything down, mine. It's about just voicing your experiences. And I said, oh well, right, well, I'll come along and have a go. If I was left to think that it was a bunch of people who was wanting you to write down stories and that type of stuff, I would have kicked it into touch. Because I didn't want to get, even at 57-year-old, you think you would outgrow that fear, but you didn't want to be in that sphere. But it was good in the sense that, I don't know, maybe I needed to say things that I hadn't said for a long time. You know, so, and that, maybe that opened it up.
There's not many spaces like that, is there? No. Where, when you think about it.
I mean, before you would have maybe a couple of close friends or a couple of neighbours where you could go and you could pour your heart out and you knew something wasn't going to get said. But now with a lot of these kids and adults see how social media is encroaching in everybody's life. And I think now you've got people who are living fearful of the fact in case they say something or do something or somebody sees them doing something of social media. It's actually stopping people from being people, I think. I think it's a horrible medium. And I've got a Facebook page with 18,000 on and I think it's a horrible medium. Any medium that allows people to use it and hide behind a mask is wrong.
Yeah, and I mean we were trying to. I mean, I'm not necessarily. I'm not saying you are either. I'm not anti-technology. I'm not very good at it, but we were deliberately trying to create a real space where people were in touching distance. You know, where we'd have to deal with whatever came up. So we were deliberately trying to do that because we believe that that's a way to be alongside each other physically and together.
We live in a society where it's easy just to ignore people, isn't it? I mean, let's be honest, how many phone calls have you made where they haven't gotten back to you when they've said they would? How many emails have you sent and they haven't replied back? And that's how easy it is now. You know, it's like, I'm not bothered.
And it's easy to turn away as well.
I didn't want to offend them, so I'll just not reply to them.
It's easy to turn away from pain, isn't it? Because what you brought into that room, courageously, I thought, was pain. And pain takes a lot of sitting with. But I think everybody, well, I mean, I went away and I grew from it. We did a lab in Horden, where there's a lot of pain in Horden, and we all went away, and I felt ill for about 4 days, depressed, you know, because for some reason, I don't know what it is, you'd probably know better than I do what's specific about that place, but
there isn't any light at the end of the tunnel.
No, there isn't any light at the end of the tunnel.
That's the thing about Horden, there isn't a light at the tunnel, at the end of the tunnel. I mean, in Seaham, we went through that period of the end in the collieries in the 90s through to, let's say, 2000, where you look round the town and you were starting to see, well, what happens? What happens when now the collieries is closed? What happens? You see people moving out. Oh, I see so-and-so's emigrated. You see so-and-so's moved away. Oh, he's working away now. Fellas you used to see every weekend and everybody was working away. Then when they got the little bit of money, they said, we didn't want to live in Darden anymore. We didn't want to live in a terraced house. We're going to move away and stuff like that. But
what made the difference here then, Des?
This marina.
So it's the geography of Seaham then, really,
simple as that, aye. Simple as that. Yeah. The thing is, we had a point of investment. Yeah. We had a starting point. Now people are criticising the money that's being spent down here and all that type of stuff, and that's fine if you want to, if that's your negative outlook on things, great. But where I look at it is, I look at it at this point. Seaham had to be started from somewhere, and the marina was there as a catalyst to actually the regeneration of the town. So we saw the development of East Shore Village on the top of the Vein Tempest, which everybody, even as the collieries were closing, they said that was going to be a housing estate. simply because it's location. Then people were looking, but where's jobs coming from and all that type of stuff. Then you saw the little industrial estates chirping in, and you were thinking, but it's not the pit. This is what you used to get, see. Well, they're not going to employ the numbers to get the pit and all this. And all the old fellas and a lot of the younger lads my age wanted to keep one foot in the pit shaft, you know, and on the pit heap. And like I say, that's to learn from. But the marina for me was the catalyst to give everybody a feel-good factor in the town. It was about that. It was about this giving everybody a boost, having a belief that the town was starting to grow. This was the plant just breaking the surface of the soil type of thing and opening up opportunities for people. And that's how it started, and it's still going now. People stand and talk with pride about how the marina's made a difference and stuff. And it is making a difference to the town. And I think to me, that's a difference. If you didn't believe this marina's made a difference to this town, its people, the influx of its new people that didn't know the pit, didn't want to know the pit, and except from a historical point, then gone down to Eason and Horden, Blackwall, and you just drive down that stretch, and you look round and you think, them people are not bad people. It's the situation they're in is bad. How you turn it round, I don't know. Because there's no big factories, investments and things like that, manufacturing-based things. Something to tap up the slack of some of these. You know, the reference to generations being on the dole and things like that, and these kids didn't want to work. That was the legacy of closing all the collieries in Block. And some of these people would have been working people. Their kids would have been working people. But because they had no alternative, there wasn't anything there. Can you just imagine being a fella living in Eason? Bush routes were practically archaic back then. Getting out and finding a job. And that was the difference. He doesn't drive.
So geography haunts as well then, doesn't it, in that way?
I'm running out of
okay.
space.
I think what I got out the Ghost Lab for me was that I didn't realise I could be so honest with so many different people, strangers in the room, apart from the couple that I knew. And I think with that honesty, it opened it up a little bit more than what maybe some other people thought of round the room. I think it's a good thing. I hope that if you do it again with other groups, then you see that honesty of somebody. I think to be fair, I'm quite an honest person anyway. So if somebody asks what I think of them, I have a tendency to tell them good or bad. To be true, sometimes it's not a good thing, but I don't know. Is it me? Is it because I believe in being honest is the right thing to do?
I think you were a catalyst in that on that day. I definitely think that. I think it was a decisive moment, and I guess what we've been trying to do is to open up a community space that we've called a Ghost Lab, right? That allows people to think about and talk about whatever's important to them. And if in that small number of people that you get, there'll be a catalyst. On that day it was you. Deep things will be touched. Lighter things will be touched. And there's a sort of way of growing community in that space. And that's what we've been trying to do. That's really what this work's all about.
I think community will change. I think, like we were saying earlier on, the community in sizes might change, but I think the idea of people being part of a community is important. And that, to me, I don't know if it's just an English thing or what, but people like this idea of being a part of something, whether it's a community of people run the football club, whether it's a community of a centre that delivers something to its community, where they actually can socialise and have a pint together and their kids can play together and all that type of stuff. And I think that's what everybody likes about a community. I think the bigger wider community like streets and rows of houses, I don't think you'll see them to that extent. You might see odd little pockets of maybe 2 or 3 streets trying to make a little bit of a community for themselves, but I think is it the changing face of people, or is it the changing face of the country or the world, you know, where...
There's just one last thing I'd add, really, and I know you'll be all right about this, so I'm taking a risk in a sense in saying this, but I know you'll be all right. So we're trying to create a way of doing research that is somehow strongly related to love, that creates a kind of loving space in a way where people can share things that are intimate and important to them in a way that will never be destructive or that will ever diminish the importance of that to them, but will kind of register it and hold it in a way. Did you understand what I mean by that?
The thing is, when you mention this, like the love element of things, it's defining what there is. You know, and there's many different types as far as I'm concerned. You see the love of a parent or a child and things, and the love for a brother to brother type of thing. I don't know if you would ever get that in the sense of that sort of love, but I think the love for a place or a space can also be relevant. You know, because I love Seam. I'm Seam through and through, and I'll do everything to defend it. Where some other people just didn't see it that way. They'll never see it. They like the place, they like to live in it, and they have a respect for it, but they didn't have a passion to want to go out and try and make it better and do better and things like that, you know.
And you do, and you did, and you came, and in expressing that passion, it spreads, it affects people. We all took it away. So that's what the laboratory did, in a sense. You know, you came and added into that mixture that then changed, and almost chemically kind of thing, and we all took it away. We were all affected by it.
Well, I felt the change when I said it, and the emotion you got from it, or the emotion I got from it. And I looked round after that, and there was, all of a sudden, there was an honest look on some people's faces, and there was actually a look on some people's faces as if to say, "Oh, I didn't expect that." But that was fantastic, and you saw that from some people, and then you looked on some people's faces and thought, "Well, I wouldn't have done that."
I think they were less than the others. I think they were less of
yes,
them.
there was definitely less, but I know for a fact that somebody in the room will have said, "Well, there's no way I would have done that." I wouldn't have laid myself open like that, or something like that. But that's what people are. Some people do things. And
so the laboratory worked in that sense. I mean, it produced what we were aiming for.
Maybe I didn't, because I didn't think as much about things. You know what I mean? I like see situations and I react, and then I think, well, if you want an honest answer, there's an honest answer. If you cannot handle the honest answer,
you're one of the most thoughtful people that I've spoken to be honest.
Good place to end.